It's a still, clear night on Scotland's Bute Sound. 3 trawlers can be seen fishing the bay. They occasionally pass each other as they drag their nets along the deep trench below. The captains keep a close watch on the waters ahead while the deckhands work hard, manning the gear. Unbeknownst to the crews on the surface, a series of events have begun to unfold beneath them. And for one of these boats, a simple turn of the wheel could spell disaster. This is the story of the Antares, Loch Long, Scotland. November 1990. The HMS Trenchant is a nuclear-powered Trafalgar-class submarine measuring 85.4 meters in length and crewed by 130 personnel. She displaces 5,300 tons when submerged and represents one of the most sophisticated war machines ever built by the Royal Navy. The Trafalgar class was designed during the height of the Cold War. Constructed from high-tensile steel and covered in anechoic tiles, these submarines were built to hunt Soviet vessels in the deepest, darkest waters of the North Atlantic. The tiles absorb sonar waves rather than reflect them, making the boat nearly invisible to enemy detection. With a nuclear reactor providing virtually unlimited range, these submarines could remain submerged for months at a time, limited only by crew endurance and food supplies. HMS Trenchant herself was laid down by Vickers Shipbuilding on October 28, 1985. She was launched on November 3, 1986, and commissioned into the Royal Navy on January 14, 1989. Less than 2 years old, she was now one of the fleet's newest hunter-killers. It's a gray, overcast day as 6 trainees and their commanding officer prepare to board. These men are candidates of the Royal Navy's infamous Perisher course, a 24-week program designed to assess their ability to command a submarine. The Perisher course. The name alone strikes fear into the hearts of submarine officers throughout the Royal Navy. Originally called the Periscope School when it was established in 1917, the course gained its nickname from the officers who attended, who were called perishers. But the name took on a darker meaning over the decades, because on this course you either pass or you perish. Not literally, but your submarine career certainly does. The statistics are brutal. Only about 50% of candidates successfully complete the training. The other half are failed out, with no second chance, no appeal, and no possibility of returning to submarine service. They can remain in the Royal Navy, but they'll never again serve underwater. For officers who have spent a decade or more preparing for submarine command, this represents the end of everything they've worked toward. The course is run twice a year, usually starting on July 2nd and November 14th. It consists of 4 phases. The first and third phases take place in simulators ashore, where candidates learn the theoretical aspects of submarine warfare. But it's the second and fourth phases, conducted at sea off the west coast of Scotland, where the real test begins. During these sea phases, candidates are put through relentless exercises. They must track and attack surface vessels. They must evade detection by warships and helicopters. They must navigate narrow channels with mere meters of clearance between the submarine's fin and ferry traffic overhead. They must lay mines in simulated enemy harbors while being hunted by active sonar. All of this happens day and night with little rest, in a constant state of high alert. Overseeing everything is a figure known simply as teacher. Teacher is always a highly experienced former submarine commander, hand-picked for this role. His word is final. There is no appeal from his decision. If at any point he determines that a candidate lacks the skill, judgment, or temperament to command a submarine, that candidate is removed from the course immediately. The tradition for handling unsuccessful students is particularly harsh. The candidate is not informed of his failure until the very last moment. His belongings are packed for him by the crew. Only when a helicopter or boat arrives to transfer him off the submarine is he told that he has failed. As he departs, he is presented with a bottle of whiskey, a small consolation for the end of his submarine career. Why such harsh standards? Because the responsibilities of submarine command are unlike anything else in the military. A submarine commander operates independently, often thousands of miles from support, in an environment that is constantly trying to kill him and his crew. He must make split-second decisions that could mean the difference between life and death for over 100 men. He commands a vessel worth hundreds of millions of pounds and carries weapons capable of devastating destruction. There is no room for error. The commanding officer of this particular perisher course has over 18 years of experience on submarines. At 41 years old, it marks exactly 10 years since he completed his own perisher course in 1980. Now it's his responsibility to determine if these 6 candidates are ready for the same burden he has carried. Once aboard, the trenchant proceeds to a designated exercise zone between Scotland and the Faroe Islands. Here, she spends the next 4 days running a myriad of simulations and navigation drills, testing the trainees to their maximum. The North Sea in November is unforgiving. Cold, dark waters that have claimed countless ships over the centuries. By the end of the 4th day, the course has already begun to take its toll. 2 of the 6 candidates have been failed out. Their submarine careers are over. They will transfer off when the boat returns to port, their bags already packed, whiskey bottles in hand. The remaining 4 candidates press on, knowing that they too could join their colleagues at any moment if they make a single critical error. Meanwhile, 150 miles to the southwest, a very different kind of vessel is preparing for sea. It's 11 post-meridium in the small fishing village of Caradale on the Kintyre Peninsula. The crew of the trawler Antares are preparing for a 5-day trip. They pack the vessel with supplies before casting off into the night. Their destination lies northeast of the Isle of Arran, to the deep trench of Bute Sound, a well-known fishing ground that they have visited many times before. Caradale is a tight-knit community where fishing has been a way of life for generations. The village sits on the eastern shore of the Kintyre Peninsula, looking out over the waters of the Firth of Clyde toward the Isle of Arran. For centuries, men from Caradale have made their living from these waters, fishing for herring, mackerel, and whitefish in the deep channels that run between the islands. The Antares is a wooden trawler built in 1965 by J. and G. Forbes in Sandhaven, Aberdeenshire. She's 17 meters long, 55 feet, with a wooden hull and a displacement of 34 tons. Powered by a Caterpillar diesel engine, she's typical of the fishing vessels that have worked Scottish waters throughout the second half of the 20th century. Originally registered in Leith, she later came under the ownership of her current skipper and carries the registration CN 123. The skipper is Jamie Russell, 36 years old, from Caradale. He purchased the Antares 3 years prior, in 1987, and has fished continuously during this time. Tonight is just another routine trip for him. He knows these waters intimately. He's fished the Arran Trench dozens of times, in all kinds of weather, in all seasons. To him, it's as familiar as his own home. Joining him are 3 crew members. William Martindale, known as Billy, 24 years old, also from Caradale. Billy entered the fishing industry straight from school and has served on the Antares since July of 1990. He's young but experienced, already showing promise as a fisherman. Dougal John Campbell, 20 years old, from Caradale. He's the youngest member of the crew, having just entered the fishing industry after leaving school. Despite his youth, he's proven himself to be a hard worker and a fast learner. And Stuart Campbell, 29 years old. He joined the Antares in April of 1990 and has fit in well with the crew. Like the others, he comes from a fishing family and has known no other life than the sea. These are men who understand the risks of their profession. Fishing is one of the most dangerous jobs in the world. The sea is unforgiving, the weather unpredictable, and the work physically demanding. Every time they cast off from Caradale, they know there's a chance they might not return. But for men like these, it's not just a job, it's a calling. It's in their blood. It's who they are. As the Antares leaves the harbor at Caradale, 2 other trawlers are also preparing to fish in the area. The Heroine from Troon and the Hercules 3 from Ayr. All 3 vessels are headed to the Arran Trench, a deep underwater channel that runs through Bute Sound. The trench is known for excellent fishing, particularly for pelagic species like herring and mackerel. The depth of the water and the strong currents make it an ideal habitat for these fish, and experienced fishermen know that the trench can provide excellent catches. Over the following days, the 3 vessels come in and out of visual and radio contact as they pass in close proximity. It's common for fishermen to maintain communication with each other, sharing information about catches, weather conditions, and any hazards they've encountered. There's a camaraderie among these men, a shared understanding of the challenges they face, and a willingness to help each other when needed. The Antares moves to other grounds on occasion, but returns to do most of her fishing in the trench. On the evening of November 21st, conditions are excellent. Light winds, 8-mile visibility, and an air temperature of 11 degrees Celsius. Perfect fishing weather. Earlier that day, the Antares briefly called to the port of Largs to offload her catch. Largs is a coastal town on the North Ayrshire coast with a small harbor that's convenient for fishermen working the Firth of Clyde. After quickly unloading their fish, the crew departed once again, eager to return to the fishing grounds while conditions remained favorable. At 5:30 post-meridium that evening, the Antares arrives back in the southern end of Bute Sound. The crew shoots their fishing lines and begins towing in a northwesterly direction. The technique they're using is called pelagic trawling. Unlike bottom trawling, where nets are dragged along the seafloor, pelagic trawling targets fish swimming in the mid-water column. The nets are suspended at a specific depth by a system of warps, wires, that connect the net to the vessel. The warps on a pelagic net are marked every 25 fathoms with a specific pattern. One mark indicates 25 fathoms from the trawl doors, 2 marks at 50 fathoms, 3 at 75, and 4 at 100 fathoms. This sequence repeats up to 200 fathoms and beyond, allowing the skipper to precisely control the depth of the net. For experienced fishermen like Jamie Russell, reading these marks is second nature. Ahead of them in the dark, the crew of the Antares can see the lights of the Heroine, also traveling to the northwest. The vessels are close enough that they can make out each other's silhouettes against the night sky. Jamie Russell picks up the VHF radio. He calls the Heroine on channel 72, the frequency commonly used by fishermen in the area. He informs the Heroine's captain that he plans to rest below deck for a short time while another crew member takes control of the vessel. It's a common practice among fishing crews. The work is exhausting, and skippers need to take breaks when they can. The 2 men speak a little longer, exchanging pleasantries and information about the night's fishing before they sign off with an over and out. Jamie heads below to get a few hours of sleep, confident that his crew can handle the vessel while he rests. Everything is routine. Everything is normal. He has no way of knowing that these will be the last peaceful moments of his life. By this time, far to the north, the trenchant has completed the first phase of her exercise in the North Sea and has headed back toward the south. The 4 remaining candidates are exhausted. Days of constant drills, minimal sleep, and the relentless pressure of teachers' scrutiny have pushed them to their limits. But they press on, knowing that the hardest part of the course is still ahead of them. The vessel makes her way to the Clyde training area, now accompanied by the surface ship HMS Charybdis. The Charybdis is a Leander-class frigate, a veteran of the Royal Navy's surface fleet. For this exercise, she will act as an opposing force, while the Trenchant practices evasive maneuvers and simulated attacks. From here, the submarine's movements are recorded in detail within the ship's log. Every course change, every depth adjustment, every contact detected, all of it is meticulously documented. This log will later prove crucial in understanding exactly what happened on this fateful night. At 11:30 post-meridium on November 21st, the Trenchant's crew is tasked with a dummy mine-laying exercise in the nearby Inchmarnock Channel. The Charybdis is to act as an opposing force, while the Trenchant makes a series of evasive maneuvers to avoid detection. It's a technically demanding exercise in a narrow body of water, requiring precise navigation and careful sonar work. The candidates take turns at the controls, each one trying to demonstrate their skill in evading the Charybdis while successfully laying their simulated mines. Teacher watches every move, making notes, occasionally offering terse comments. The pressure is intense. One mistake could mean failure, and failure means the end of everything they've worked for. Upon completion of the mine-laying exercise, both vessels exit the channel to practice dummy attack scenarios in more open water. At 1:31 ante-meridium on November 22nd, the Trenchant moves to periscope depth in order to spot the Charybdis while on a mock torpedo run. The duty captain carefully scans the entire area through the periscope. The night is dark, but visibility is adequate. He rotates the periscope slowly, checking the full 360 degrees of horizon. He reports seeing only the naval vessel and no other ships. The exercise continues for a further 30 minutes until at 2 ante-meridium it is deemed complete. The Trenchant resubmerges to 60 meters and sets a northwesterly course toward the southern end of Arran at a steady speed of 6 knots. At this point, the course leader and the ship's captain retire to the wardroom to discuss the candidate's performance. It's been a long night, and they both need a break. The duty captain hands over command to one of the trainees, giving him the opportunity to demonstrate his ability to command the submarine independently. This is it. This is the moment that trainee has been working toward for his entire career. He's alone in the control room, responsible for a nuclear submarine and the lives of everyone aboard. It's exhilarating and terrifying in equal measure. Above them, on the surface, the fishing vessels continue their work. The Heroine, now towing northwest, passes the Antares, which is headed in a southeasterly direction. Approximately 10 minutes later, the Heroine's watchkeeper glances back. He notices the Antares turning to starboard, coming back to a northwesterly tow. All looks to be normal as he holds his gaze for a short while, watching the other vessels settle onto its new course. He has no idea what's about to happen. At 2 ante-meridium, the crews of the Heroine and Hercules 3 communicate via VHF. They exchange information about their catches and their positions. During the conversation, they note that the Antares is no longer visible by eye or on radar. But this doesn't alarm them. They assume she's simply moved to another fishing area, perhaps trying different grounds in search of better catches. No alarm is raised, and both vessels continue fishing. Meanwhile, below the surface, something is about to go terribly wrong. The Trenchant's duty captain, the trainee who has taken over command, makes a course alteration to 315 degrees true north. It's a routine course change, the kind that happens dozens of times during any patrol. But the moment the submarine's bow begins to swing through the water, everything changes. Instantly, 4 contacts appear on the sonar. These are designated as M1, Contact 3, Contact 5, and Contact 45. The sonar operators call out the contacts, their voices crisp and professional despite the sudden increase in activity. Contact M1 is quickly identified as the Charybdis, now departing the exercise area and heading back toward port. That's expected, but Contact 5 is different. It's classified as a fishing vessel, and its signal is growing louder. Not just louder, but rapidly louder. The vessel's course appears to be shifting quickly, and the passive sonar doesn't provide an exact range, but at 35 decibels, it's suddenly alarmingly close. The trainee captain feels his heart rate spike. This is exactly the kind of situation that the perisher course is designed to test. A close contact with a surface vessel, a potential collision scenario. He needs to react quickly and correctly, or lives could be at risk. He orders a sharp turn to port. The helmsman responds immediately, spinning the wheel. The submarine's bow begins to swing through the water, angling away from the contact. But as the turn progresses, the sonar operator calls out again. Contact 5 is now closing distance rapidly. Not just rapidly, but at an alarming rate. The contact is well within the required 2,000-yard exclusion zone. Royal Navy standing orders at the time require submarines to remain clear of fishing vessels with a minimum separation distance of 2,000 yards. Additionally, the standing orders set out by the captain of the trenchant specify that he must be called if the submarine finds itself within 4,000 yards of a surface contact. But none of this has happened. The captain is in the wardroom. The trainee is alone with a situation that's spiraling out of control. The trainee eases the rudder, hoping to reduce the rate of approach. He's trying to regain control of the situation, trying to create distance between the submarine and whatever is up there on the surface. But it's too late. The physics of the situation are already set in motion. A 5,300-ton submarine moving at 6 knots has enormous momentum. It cannot stop or turn on a dime. At 2:19 anti-meridium, the submarine shudders. A series of loud bangs echo through the control room. The sound is like nothing the crew has heard before. It's not the normal sounds of the sea, not the creaking of the hull under pressure, not the hum of machinery. This is something else entirely. The sonar controller immediately reports a trawl snag. The submarine's engines are stopped instantly, following emergency procedures. But it's too late. Trawl wires are already scraping along the metal hull of the trenchant, making a horrible screeching sound that resonates through the entire vessel. The sonar operators can hear strange disturbances through their headsets. Among them, horrifyingly, is the sound of a propeller spinning up. Not the trenchant's propeller, which is stationary now. This is a different propeller, a smaller propeller, the propeller of a fishing vessel. The course leader rushes back to the control room. He bursts through the door to find controlled chaos. The trainee captain is standing at the periscope platform, his face pale. The sonar operators are calling out readings. The helmsman is standing by for orders. And everyone, every single person in that control room knows that something terrible has just happened. Teacher immediately retakes command of the trenchant. His voice is calm but firm as he begins issuing orders. First priority, ensure the safety of the submarine and her crew. Second priority, determine what has happened on the surface. Third priority, render any assistance possible. For the 4 men aboard the Antares, the moments that follow are filled with terror and confusion. Everything is normal 1 second. Jamie Russell is asleep below. The other crew members are managing the tow, the diesel engine rumbling steadily, the vessel cutting through the calm waters at a gentle pace. Then, without warning, their trawl wires are suddenly wrenched taut. The violence of it is shocking. The wires go from the normal tension of towing a net to an impossible, unbearable tension in an instant. Something massive, something irresistible, has snagged their gear and is now dragging it, and them, backward through the water. The vessel lists sharply, throwing the crew off balance. Men who have spent their entire lives on fishing boats, who have weathered the worst storms the Atlantic can throw at them, are suddenly struggling to stay on their feet. The Antares is being pulled backward, stern first, through the water. This should not be possible. Nothing in the sea has the power to do this to a 55-foot trawler. But it's happening. The violent force of the submarine dragging the gear causes the Antares to roll onto its starboard side. The roll is terrifying. Fishing vessels are designed to handle rough seas, to roll and recover. But this is different. This is a sustained, unnatural roll that just keeps going. Jamie Russell is thrown from his bunk as the vessel heels over. He scrambles toward the ladder, trying to reach the deck, trying to understand what's happening. But he never makes it. Within seconds, water floods into the open wheelhouse. The cold, dark sea pours in with devastating force. The vessel is being dragged under, bow first, the weight of the submarine and the entangled net pulling her down into the depths. The crew fights to escape. There's no time to send out a mayday call, no time to grab life jackets, no time to deploy the life raft, which remains secured in its storage position and fails to float free as it should. The cold water is overwhelming, disorienting. The darkness is total. A desperate last-ditch effort is made to power up the engines, hoping somehow to break free of the snag. But the propeller is useless with the vessel at this angle. Someone tries to pry open the windows of the wheelhouse, hoping to escape through the small openings. But the chaos of rushing water, the angle of the vessel, and the sheer terror of the moment make it impossible. Within moments, less than a minute from the initial snag, the Antares disappears below the surface with all 4 crew still aboard. The cold waters of Bute Sound close over her, and she begins her final descent to the bottom, 150 meters below. On the surface, the sea returns to calm. The lights of the Heroine and Hercules III can still be seen in the distance, their crews unaware of the tragedy that has just occurred. A short while later, the trenchant rises to periscope depth. The captain, now back in command, carefully scans the waters. The night is still calm. In the distance, he can see 2 trawlers fishing as normal. Their lights are steady, their movements routine. All else is calm and as it should be. There's no sign of distress, no flares, no debris visible in the darkness. Confused and concerned, he radios the Charybdis. The frigate's captain confirms that no alarms have been raised, no mayday calls have been heard. From the frigate's position, everything appears normal. Still concerned about the trawl snag, the trenchant's captain makes the order to surface for a full inspection. The submarine carefully rises to the surface, her hull breaking through the calm waters. The crew quickly goes topside to inspect the damage. They immediately find lengths of steel wire and chain tangled around the submarine's conning tower and wrapped around the hull. The wires are thick, industrial-strength fishing gear. There's quite a lot of it, enough to cause concern. But with no signs of distress on the surface, with the 2 visible fishing vessels continuing to fish normally, the incident's true severity is not fully realized. The trenchant's captain takes some time to think. He weighs the evidence. A trawl snag has occurred, that's clear. But all indications show that the fishing vessels in the area are continuing their work normally. Perhaps the wires simply broke free from one of the vessels. Perhaps a net was lost and the submarine accidentally snagged it. There are many possible explanations, and most of them don't involve a catastrophic outcome. At 3:15 ante-meridium, he radios a report to the operations room at Fathom, the submarine base on the Firth of Clyde. He reports the trawl snag and requests guidance. The radio operators at Fathom have not heard any distress calls either. The duty officer considers the information. With no reports of vessels in distress, with visual confirmation that fishing vessels in the area appear to be operating normally, the decision is made to continue with the exercise. The trenchant submerges and proceeds with her mission. The course must continue. The candidates must be evaluated. The Royal Navy's operational requirements don't stop for a possible minor incident with a fishing net. But on the seabed, 150 meters below, the Antares lies on her starboard side, facing in a northeasterly direction. Inside the wreck, 4 men from Caradale have perished, victims of a tragic accident that should never have happened. 6 hours later, as the sun begins to rise over the Firth of Clyde, word of a potential incident has grown. At 8 ante-meridium, the secretary of the Clyde Fishermen's Association hears rumors of a submarine collision with fishing gear. Concerned, he begins telephoning the various fishing ports in the area and contacting vessels at sea. It soon emerges that the Antares is unaccounted for. By 9 ante-meridium, the alarm is officially raised as reports of surface debris are now being spotted by ships in the area. A helicopter crew is dispatched from the Royal Naval Air Station at Prestwick. They quickly arrive at the scene and find the telltale signs of an accident. Fish boxes, the distinctive wooden crates that fishing vessels use to store their catch, are floating on the surface. A patch of diesel fuel creates an oily sheen on the water, a rainbow of colors that marks the grave of a sunken vessel. At this point, the full realization of what has happened begins to take hold. This isn't a minor incident. This isn't a lost net or a minor collision. A fishing vessel has sunk, and there are men in the water or trapped inside the wreck. A coordinated search and rescue effort is immediately launched. 2 helicopters join the search. 40 search units are mobilized, including shoreline search teams who comb the beaches and rocky coasts of Arran and Bute. Lifeboats from Lamlash and Troon rush to the scene. HMS Charybdis, which had been returning to port, is recalled and takes command of the surface search operation. 33 fishing vessels in the area abandon their own fishing to join the search for their colleagues. But despite the massive effort, despite the dozens of vessels and aircraft searching every meter of water, no survivors are found. The hope that perhaps someone escaped, perhaps someone is clinging to debris or made it to shore, slowly fades as the hours pass. After a day of searching, the Royal Maritime Auxiliary Service vessel Triador uses side-scan sonar to identify a wreck on the seafloor. The sonar image shows a vessel sitting at a depth of 150 meters, facing in a northeasterly direction, lying on her starboard side. Given the depth, a team of saturation divers is sent down to investigate. Saturation diving is a specialized technique used for deep underwater work. The divers live in a pressurized chamber for days or weeks at a time, breathing a mixture of helium and oxygen that allows them to work at extreme depths without suffering from the bends. From the chamber, they can be transported to the wreck site in a diving bell and perform complex underwater tasks. The divers descend into the cold, dark waters. At 150 meters, sunlight does not penetrate. They work by the light of powerful lamps, their movements slow and deliberate in the crushing pressure. When they reach the wreck, they quickly confirm what everyone already fears. It is the Antares. The divers conduct a careful examination of the wreck. They look for any signs of survivors, though everyone knows that at this depth, after this much time, survival would be impossible. They document the damage to the vessel, photograph the scene, and prepare for the complex task of recovery. Over the following weeks, a salvage operation is mounted. Raising a vessel from 150 meters is an enormous undertaking, requiring specialized equipment and careful planning. Lift bags are attached to the wreck. Cables are secured. Slowly, Carefully, the Antares is brought back to the surface. On December 10th, 1990, the wreck finally breaks the surface. She's transported to Greenock for examination. Once the vessel is drained and dried, investigators make a surprising discovery. The Antares is largely undamaged. The electrical equipment has succumbed to the salt water, rendered useless by weeks of immersion. But the hull is intact. The main structure of the boat is sound. There are no signs of collision damage, no holes torn in the planking, no major structural failures. This finding is crucial. It confirms that the Antares did not sink due to any fault of her own. She did not spring a leak. She did not suffer a mechanical failure. She was pulled under by an external force, exactly as the crew of the Trenchant reported. The trawl wires, still attached to the vessel, tell the story. They were under enormous tension when they finally broke, the frayed ends evidence of the violent forces involved. Inside the wreck, the bodies of 3 crew members are recovered: Jamie Russell, Billy Martindale, and Dougal John Campbell. They are returned to their families in Carradale for burial, their community devastated by the loss. While the investigation of the ship continues, a wider search is underway to find the 4th and final crew member, Stuart Campbell. Despite having an accurate location as to where the incident took place, despite the best efforts of divers and search teams, his body cannot be found. In a gesture of profound solidarity and grief, the men of Carradale undertake their own search. They take their trawlers out to the site of the sinking and conduct saturation trawling, dragging their nets across the seabed in the area around the wreck. They're searching for their friend, their neighbor, their colleague. But despite their efforts, despite days of searching, Stuart Campbell's body remains lost in the depths. It won't be until April 15th, 1991, nearly 5 months after the sinking, that his body is finally brought to the surface. A trawler fishing in the area hauls in its net and discovers the grim find. Stuart Campbell is finally returned to Carradale, the last of the 4 men to come home. The Marine Accident Investigation Branch conducts a thorough investigation into the sinking. Their report, published in July of 1992, is devastating in its conclusions. The collision was attributed to a partial breakdown in both the structure and the standards of watchkeeping on board Trenchant. The investigation finds multiple failures. The command team was unaware that the single sonar contact they detected was in fact 2 vessels fishing in close proximity. The Antares and the Heroine were very close to each other at the time of the incident, their sonar signatures overlapping in a way that made them appear as a single contact to the submarine's passive sonar. No proper surface assessment of the incident was carried out by the command team following the collision. When the submarine surfaced and saw 2 fishing vessels apparently operating normally, they assumed that their net snagging had not caused serious damage. They failed to consider that one of the vessels they had detected earlier might now be missing. Attempts to contact the fishing vessels in the area were inadequate. The submarine tried to raise the Heroine and Hercules 3 on the radio, but received no response. However, they gave up too quickly, failing to persist with their attempts or to use alternative methods of communication. Most damning of all, initial incorrect reports from the Trenchant to Faslane resulted in an 8-hour delay in mounting a search and rescue operation. Those 8 hours may have made the difference. While it's unlikely that anyone could have survived the sinking of the Antares, the possibility cannot be completely ruled out. The delay in launching the search operation may have cost lives. The investigation also finds that the Royal Navy's standing orders were violated. Submarines were required to maintain a minimum separation distance of 2,000 yards from fishing vessels. The Trenchant was well inside this exclusion zone when the collision occurred. Additionally, the captain of the Trenchant had set his own standing orders requiring him to be called if the submarine came within 4,000 yards of a surface contact. This order was not followed. The trainee in command allowed the submarine to close to a dangerously close range without calling the captain. No blame for the collision is attached to the Antares or her crew. They were going about their legal and customary business of commercial fishing in waters they had every right to be in. They took all reasonable precautions. They maintained communication with other fishing vessels. They followed standard fishing practices. The fault lies entirely with the submarine. A court-martial is eventually held. A sub-lieutenant, the duty captain who was in command at the time of the collision, is charged with 3 counts of negligence. The charges include failing to realize how close the trawler was to the trenchant, allowing the Antares to stay on a collision course without verifying her range, and being unaware of the presence of a second trawler in the vicinity. But the court-martial results are controversial. The families of the deceased and George Foulkes, Member of Parliament for Carrick, Cumnock, and Doon Valley, express anger at the outcome. They believe that the sub-lieutenant, as a student officer under training, has been made a scapegoat by the Royal Navy. The real responsibility, they argue, lies with the command structure that allowed a trainee to be placed in such a situation without adequate supervision, and with teacher and the submarine's captain for failing to properly oversee the exercise. As a result of this incident, a number of significant changes are made to the Royal Navy's procedures. A new code of practice for the conduct of submarine operations in the vicinity of fishing vessels is established. This code remains the standard to this day. The changes include a mandatory 3,000-yard separation distance between submarines and fishing vessels, an increase of 1,000 yards from the previous requirement. Submarines are required to surface when not engaged in active exercises, making them visible to fishing vessels and reducing the risk of collision. Surface vessels must be present during all training exercises to act as safety observers and communication links. Designated submarine exercise areas are established and clearly marked on nautical charts, allowing fishermen to understand when and where naval activity is likely to be taking place. The area east of Arran, around the Arran Trench, where the Antares was lost, is now a designated submarine practice area. Both submarines and fishing vessels are required to take particular precautions when operating in this zone. These reforms are significant and meaningful. They have undoubtedly prevented similar tragedies in the years since. But for the families of Jamie Russell, Billy Martindale, Dougal John Campbell, and Stuart Campbell, these changes came too late. After the conclusion of the investigation, the Antares is transported to the Scottish Maritime Museum in Irvine, Ayrshire. The intention is to preserve her as a memorial exhibit, a physical reminder of the tragedy and the 4 men who lost their lives. Visitors can stand before the vessel and see firsthand the scale of the trawler and contemplate what happened that November night. For 18 years, the Antares remains on display at the museum. She becomes a powerful educational tool, helping to teach new generations about maritime safety, the relationship between commercial fishing and naval operations, and the human cost of accidents at sea. Guided tours of the vessel are offered, and thousands of people walk her decks, peer into her wheelhouse, and pay their respects to the men who died. But maintaining a wooden vessel, especially one that has been submerged in seawater for weeks, is a constant challenge. Despite the best efforts of the museum staff and volunteers, the Antares begins to deteriorate. The cost of maintenance becomes prohibitive. Wood rots, metal corrodes, and the vessel that once proudly sailed the waters of the Firth of Clyde slowly falls into disrepair. In 2008, with the permission of the families of the crew, the difficult decision is made to dismantle the Antares. She is taken to Troon, not far from where she was once a familiar sight in the fishing fleet, and there she is carefully broken up. Some parts are saved for preservation, but most of the vessel returns to scrap. Today, the pier at Carradale is still busy with boats, Crews prepare their nets, and trawlers hang from their ropes, just as they did on that November night in 1990. The fishing industry continues, as it has for centuries, men and women making their living from the sea despite the risks. But as you look east toward the Isle of Arran, a plaque clings to the seawall. It's a simple memorial, bronze weathering to a soft patina in the salt air. The names are engraved clearly: Jamie Russell, William Martindale, Dougal John Campbell, Stuart Campbell. A final tribute to the Antares and her 4 crew, a reminder that the sea, for all its beauty and bounty, demands respect. A warning that when human error intrudes upon the careful balance of maritime operations, the consequences can be swift and terrible. The story of the Antares is not just about a collision between a fishing vessel and a submarine. It's about 4 men from a small Scottish village who went to sea to earn their living and never came home. It's about a Royal Navy training exercise that went catastrophically wrong. It's about the failures of communication, judgment, and procedure that led to preventable deaths. But it's also about the changes that followed, the reforms that have made waters safer for fishermen and submariners alike. It's about a community that refused to forget its lost sons, that fought for justice and accountability, and that ensures their memory endures. The waters of Bute Sound are calm again now, as they were on that November night. Fishing vessels still work the Arran Trench, their crews drawing up nets full of herring and mackerel. Submarines still patrol these waters, their crews trained to the highest standards in the world. And on the seawall at Carradale, the plaque remains, a permanent reminder of the price of vigilance and the cost of its absence. This was the story of the Antares,